Welcome back to the Haunted Beard, everybody. Thank you for joining me. So today I'm going to give you my review for Late Night with the Devil. This is a film that has been on my list. I've been looking forward to it. Finally just became available to watch on Shudder. I've got some thoughts, so here we go. In Late Night with the Devil, a live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. And the first 8 to 10 minutes of this movie are presented and edited like a documentary, as we're introduced to our main character, played by David Dastmalchian. Plays a guy by the name of Jack Delroy, who is a late night television host. And I really like this opening for the film because it gives us just enough backstory and context to everything. It gives us some exposition, some needed exposition, and some character depth and development all in a short amount of time, but it's presented to us in that documentary type way. So it kind of gives it a layer of authenticity, and it just kind of immediately pulls us in as we get a bit of a portrait and a study of this guy's life. And so I thought it was just a good and efficient way to give you the information and get you connected and introduced to the main character. And that really speaks to, I think, one of the highlights of the film as a whole is just its overall presentation. Because after you get this introduction sequence, the rest of the film plays out in real time as we are now at a live broadcast of his show. And I'm just typically a fan of this type of presentation when you just have a small cast of characters in pretty much one location. And in this case, everything's taken place in real time. I just like that presentation. It just is interesting to me. I like this sort of stage play type presentation to where you feel, and in this case more so, like an audience member at a stage play, and you're just watching everything unfold. And I just think it makes for a very compelling type of movie. And I think they pull that off quite well here in this film. And I also like what they do is because when they take a TV break, the movie keeps rolling and it cuts to black and white, and you now get to see Delroy and some of the other guests and some of the producers and things like that behind the scenes. And so you're kind of getting two different presentations of these characters and what they're like, right? Because TV is, it's fake, right? Everybody has their sort of in front of the cameras TV persona and then who they really are behind the cameras. And I like just sort of the contrast. I like just what's going on really behind the scenes, and then how do they have to present it when the cameras are rolling. And so I like that added layer to the presentation of the movie. I thought it worked really well. And I think overall the performances here are pretty good as well, especially David Dastmalchian. He does just, I think, a really solid job carrying the film. I mean, he's the front and center. Not only is he in every scene, he's in like almost every shot of the movie, and he just does a great job. He's an interesting character, and there's some things to him that you kind of find out about as the film progresses, and there's some depth and complexities and little mysteries there that I really liked. And he just does a really good job selling this type of character and this type of role. He feels like a real late night TV host, and I just thought he crushed it. I also really like the girl who played Lily, who's the young girl who is supposedly possessed by a demon later on in the film. She also does a really solid job. And her just facial expressions, eye movements, the way she smiles and looks at you is very just kind of off-putting. But I thought the girl who played her did a really solid job as well. And I also really liked the character of Carmichael, who is the skeptic. He's the guy who comes out there who investigates all these paranormal claims. He's this like paranormal scientist investigator, and he's the one who investigates all these claims, tries to find if there's any evidence of actual paranormal or supernatural activity. And he's just the skeptic, and he kind of acts as the antagonist for a portion of the film. But I really liked how they utilized his character as he just kind of helps add some dramatic tension and stuff like that. That worked really well. But another one of the highlights of the movie is just really the authenticity of it all. It really feels like you're watching a actual late night TV broadcast from the 70s. And everything about it, it just feels real. It feels authentic. It's presented in the classic 4:3 full screen ratio, just like it would have been back in the 70s. Just the costumes are on point. Even some of the clearly like scripted, corny sort of TV jokes that they tell just feel real. Sort of the fake laughter behind it, and just kind of the insincerity. Again, there's sort of this the fakeness of television. Like you're clearly you're pretending to be yourself, but it's not your real self, sort of thing. That just whole sort of fake television aspect kind of comes through a little bit, that I think again just adds to the authentic feeling of it. And yeah, it does a really solid job in that aspect. So Late Night with the Devil definitely has a handful of really effective and well executed elements, but the most important thing is the horror, right? How does the horror come through? How effective are the horror sequences? And I would be lying if I said there were a couple moments, at least sort of in the first 2/3 of the movie, where it left a little more to be desired. Like I wanted a little bit more than what it was giving me. However, at the same time, though, I respect the film that it really stays true to what it's trying to execute. It stays true to the very sort of realistic, grounded presentation that it's going for. And so on one hand, the first 2/3 of the film, it left me wanting a little bit more. It did feel a little bit unsatisfying when it comes to the horror elements. There's some decent sort of suspense build up and kind of some creepier moments, but it did leave a bit to be desired. But on the other hand, I do appreciate that it does stay true to what it sets out to do. It doesn't overdo it. It's kind of taking its time. It's being patient. And again, it's trying to sort of portray this in a very realistic way, that like if something like this were ever to be captured on a real-time late night show, this is perhaps how it would go. And so I guess there's a little bit of mixed feelings there regarding the horror elements. However, once you get to about the last 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, there are some pretty effective horror sequences. You get some, I think, pretty gnarly and fun practical effects. I'll just say there's a demonic possession type scene that I think works pretty well and is pretty creepy. And then you get the last 10 minutes of the movie that are pretty crazy. And I'll just say you get to the point where basically all hell breaks loose, sort of thing. It's very bizarre and surreal and mysterious. And I like that direction. I like what they decided to do for the last 10 minutes of the movie. And it's one of those things where I'm not entirely sure what to make of it. It's perhaps a little bit up for interpretation and kind of requires maybe a little digging through. I have a pretty good idea, I think, of what they were going for, but it is a little ambiguous and just kind of bizarre. But I really like that about it, and I like that they kind of took the final climax in that sort of direction. So overall, if you haven't seen Late Night with the Devil, I would definitely recommend it, at least if it sounds interesting to you. I think it's definitely worth a watch. I was pretty impressed with it and overall had a pretty solid time. I'm going to be at like a 7.5 out of 10 for this one, and would definitely recommend it. So those are my thoughts. Hit me up down below if you've seen this. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear from you. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you got something out of this video, go ahead and do me a favor and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.